Here's Brody Brazil.
So the NHL just came out with a wholesale list of schedule changes for pretty much every team in the month of February. This is to make up all those games that were postponed in the months of November and December, and they're using the former Olympic break to catch up in a 2 to 3 week span. So I want to go over the bigger picture here for the league, as well as what it means specifically for a team like the San Jose Sharks. I'll do that in just a second. But the league is going to play all 82 games for all 32 teams. They're not going to extend their schedule past, I think it's the 27th of April. They're not going into the month of May with the regular season. New dates have been made for 98 games that were previously postponed in a 2-month period from the 18th of November through January 18th here in 2022. There were also 23 other games that got their dates changed to accommodate the new dates for postponed games. Clearly, this is a huge puzzle. Teams, arena availability, travel, right? One thing does affect another, and they had to move so many things around. I do believe they tried to minimize disruption for every team. They tried to be convenient for everybody, but it was a very difficult situation. Some teams had only a couple games to make up, like the Sharks. Other teams have 7 or 8 games to be played some other time. So this was difficult. We'll see what it means for everybody in just a second, but 95 games are scheduled now for the 16-day window between the 7th of February through the 22nd, which was previously designated as a pause to accommodate NHL player participation in the Olympic Games at Beijing. Obviously, no players from the NHL are going. Games are scheduled on all 16 of those dates in February, highlighted by a 10-game slate. It's a very busy Thursday, the 17th of February. So let's get into it for the Sharks. Now, 4 games are changing here. 3 of them were ones that were postponed. The game from April 10th is actually being moved up to the 20th of February against the Las Vegas Golden Knights. That's one of those compensation games, making up those 3 first ones and then changing the 4th one to allow for other schedule changes later on in the month of April. But only 4 affected dates. Like I said before, clearly this is not many in the larger scale of things. So now what does the Sharks' schedule look like in the month of February? They'll play on the 1st, as previously scheduled, against Tampa Bay. They're in Florida. Then they get the rest of that week off. They get the rest of next week off. As you're about to see, this is a luxury compared to some other teams. They'll play on the 14th against Edmonton, the 17th against Vancouver. All these are home games. The 20th against Las Vegas at home. Quick trip down to SoCal. And then things pick up as they were previously planned. I think it's the 22nd, 24th, 26th, and 27th. You look at all those games now, all in the state of California. So you're in Florida to cap off that road trip. Again, that was already on the schedule. Everything else here in the state of California in the month of February. So you're not playing a back-to-back that you weren't planning on. The 26th and 27th, they were already on the books. Spaced out in between days. I have no complaints about this, no problem with this. This is very doable for the San Jose Sharks. It doesn't go any differently than the rest of their schedule has this year. But compare this and contrast this to what Calgary's going to go through. So all of a sudden, they're playing games on the 1st and 2nd. Then they get a decent amount of time off, 6 days. But then they play on the 9th, 10th, 12th. That's 3 games in 4 nights. Then 2 days off. Then another back-to-back. Now, a lot of these games are at home, which for them is a benefit. But then again on the next Saturday against Seattle. Then on the Monday against Winnipeg. Then on the road in Van and then back home. So you can see how a couple back-to-backs, 3 games in 4 nights, 3 games in 5 nights the next week, this gets pretty busy, and this is just one scenario. Let me show you what the schedule looks like for the Ottawa Senators. My goodness. 7th and 8th, and then 10th, and then 12th, and then 13th. Look at that stretch right there. And then the 15th. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's call it 6 games through St. Louis. 6 games in, 8, 9 days? But it doesn't stop there. Then it goes to Buffalo. Then back home against Boston. I mean, you're playing every other day, and then there are some back-to-backs in there. Back-to-backs on the 7th and 8th, on the 12th and 13th, the 19th and 20th. You know, this is pretty intimidating. All these teams and these players were planning to get basically 3 full weeks off from the 1st through the 21st of February. And now certainly that's not going to be the case. How about the New York Islanders? They play on the 1st, then they're going to get their break, but then the 9th, 11th, 12th, there's 3 games in 4 nights, 15th, 17th, and they get a little bit of a breather, but then 20th, 22nd, 24th, and on and on. That's an example of not the most difficult, but certainly not what players and teams were banking on in terms of resting and resetting. So I bring it back to the San Jose Sharks. All those schedules compared to this makes the Sharks, schedule and what they're about to face, it makes it a little bit more reasonable. So that's the schedule changes for the San Jose Sharks. I am a little bit surprised that all of this came out here, not even in the latest days of January. I thought they would delay this as long as possible to make sure there were no other changes. I certainly hope that they can stick to this. I hope that the NHL can move on. I hope that what they're doing right here is exactly how things play out. I hope they don't need another round of revisions. We all realize that would be a bad thing, because as it stands right now for the Sharks, this is a good thing. This is doable for them. Let's hope they can keep it rolling.